Hey ho, dear ones, welcome back to Soul Alive Radio. Oh my gosh, you are in for a treat today because, to be quite honest, my understanding of human design just got blown up in the best possible way. I am still integrating the conversation I had today with Analena Fuchs about sidereal astrology, which I was saying sidereal astrology, but I guess you can say it both ways. But doesn't sidereal sound more astrological? So I'm going to call it sidereal. If you happen to know the exact way to pronounce it, DM me. But when you look at it and read it, it reads in English like sidereal astrology. If you want to look it up and learn more about it, it is really fascinating. And Analena does a great job describing exactly technically what it is. And I think that's a very important distinction and how it differs for what most of us use and what the traditional human design chart is based on, and that's tropical astrology. So this conversation really did blow my mind. I'm getting the intuitive yes to reveal the surprise for you now, which is more of a big deal for me probably than for you. But if you could hold this space for me, because I'm quite excited. When you run your human design chart set to sidereal astrology other than tropical astrology, you get a different chart. And that's what really blew my mind, because I am not someone who knows a lot about astrology, but I do know a lot about human design. And so at the end of the conversation I have with Analena, I go to her website, and we will link in the show notes her site where you can run your chart for free based on sidereal astrology. And you are likely going to get a quite different chart. And I am so seized by this. I'm going to do a whole follow-on episode on what that means and what to do, because so much is just really snapping into place for me. And it's something I learned from my human design teacher, and I've been teaching myself. And that is, we all have all parts of the chart. And I think when we run our chart sometimes, we get really attached to, well, I am a projector or I am a manifesting generator. And I can tell you, I am now for the first time realizing that I'm quite attached to my identity as a 6-2 projector. And now I'm realizing I'm just so much more than that. And of course, I, on a certain level, knew that, of course. And I knew we all had all parts of the chart. And I was actually just taking this concept to the next level in my business, which was the inspiration behind my brand new freebie, my brand new free training, which I titled Run the Right Chart. And if you're interested in getting that training, you can find it in the show notes or head over to AllisonScammell.com/chart. You can run your human design chart for free. Right now, it's based on the tropical astrology, but I will look into how I could offer you the two different versions, because I actually think it's important to have both. In Run the Right Chart, I teach you how to run the human design chart for all the major components of your business itself, your signature offer, your signature platform. And as I was doing that for my own business, none of the major components of my business turned out to be a projector. I was the only projector, but I could see how I had aspects of each of these different types of energies showing up, and how my business is its own living, breathing entity that I partner with. And so this is sort of a continuation of that exploration, how we all have all the different types. We all have the different profiles, and they just show up differently in different ways. And I could talk about this for 2 hours, but I really want to get you to the conversation because it's so rich. And actually, I'm not going to reveal to you what my sidereal human design chart is. You have to listen to the interview to get to that, but it really blew me away. And so now I'm working on unattaching from my identity as a 6-2 projector, because I'm now really knowing that I am much more than that, and as are you. And I should say, you are what feels true for you, what resonates, what shows up. And we all eventually evolve beyond the chart. So our traditional human design chart is our baseline, I believe. But then as we evolve to higher and more expanded ways of being. So as we expand, we show up as more than one type. So let's get to today's conversation. Analena Fuchs is our guest, and she is an intuitive business mystic, human design mentor, and the creator of the Authority Expansion Framework. She helps coaches, healers, and consciousness entrepreneurs deepen their intuition, strengthen their trust, and make more aligned decisions using human design, gene keys, and true sidereal astrology. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. You can see that this is new to me. My apologies. The actual name of this astrology is True Sidereal Astrology. So those of you who are already knowledgeable about this astrology, you were probably thinking like, Allison, get the name right. So my apologies, my apologies. The actual name is True Sidereal Astrology, and it looks like True Sidereal when you read it, and maybe that's pronounced, I'm not really sure. DM me and let me know if you know. So I think you're going to love this conversation. It truly blew me away. You'll get to see my second type and strategy at the end as I run my chart. And just a little note here to say that I still very much feel like a 6-2 projector, but now I'm really seeing and knowing that I'm more than that. And I'm starting to explore into and live into how my energy is expanding to be so much more. So please enjoy. Analena, welcome to Soul Alive Radio. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me, Allison. It's a delight to connect with you.
I rebranded my podcast recently, and I think you're my first guest on the new frequency. Welcome to the new frequency.
I love that.
I love it.
Yeah.
So Analena is originally, if I may share, from Germany, and I live in the Netherlands. So she lives in the US. I'm originally from the US. And obviously, Germany and the Netherlands are entirely different countries, but they are bordering one another. So we're we're doing a nice little exchange here.
Yeah, we are. And I'm actually from close to Cologne, which is very close to the border. It's like an hour-ish away.
Beautiful. I love that part of Germany. I used to live in Maastricht, which is right on the border area there. So I know that area pretty well. Very cool. All right. So we are going to dive into something that I know very little about. And I love these episodes because I am here whenever I have a guest to learn. And I selfishly, when I have a guest, will sometimes ask questions. I'm going to give away my secret here. That's like something I'm struggling with in the moment. And I will ask you questions around that. And it's almost like I'm getting like this opportunity to, this personal one-on-one opportunity to receive wisdom from amazing experts such as you, Analena. So I just have a hunch I might be doing that today.
Yeah, I'm excited to share and ready to hear your questions.
Beautiful. So we're going to be exploring True Sidereal Astrology. So I feel like you and I are vibing on the same wavelength, like doing a lot of the same things. We teach about intuition. We teach about human design. I know about gene keys. I don't teach about it, but you teach about incorporate gene keys, which is super cool. So when I saw that you also incorporate True Sidereal Astrology, I thought, well, that is so interesting. I think I've heard of it. I've definitely heard of it, but I don't know much about it. Can you tell me and any of the listeners here are not really familiar with it, what is it?
Yeah, so first of all, it actually came into my life through human design, right? Because just like you, I have been in the human design space. It's now 6 years. It was like literally right when COVID hit. And at the time, I wasn't really interested much in astrology. I knew that the human design chart is based on astrology calculation, but that was really not of my interest. And even my teacher at the time was mentioning, hey, you can also work with sidereal charts. It's really up to you and your chart changes. But I was like, yeah, there was no intuition within me at the time that was telling me to look further into it. So I just stick with a regular human design at the time, which is based on tropical astrology, right? And eventually one of my students came to me like, hey, I have been some profound insights and breakthroughs with sidereal astrology. Do you mind if we look into it? So it came through one of my students. I was responding to it, and we were like, okay. And she was actually teaching us about it, just like you here on the podcast, right? Like, yeah, I want to know and receive the wisdom. I think we have to be very open-minded, right? Because we never know everything. There's so much out there. And when she presented it, and then I got really intrigued, I had this feeling in my body, where my intuition was like on fire, and like there was something there. I could feel it in my body. I always have this like very light, grounded, expansive feeling in my body when something is a yes, and that was there very strongly. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna explore this further. So I did my whole, rabbit hole thing. I searched YouTube videos and all the things that I could find. And then I learned there's something called sidereal astrology and also like Vedic, but there's something also called true sidereal astrology.
Oh my goodness. So I was totally saying it wrong.
Many say sidereal. I don't know what the right way is. I say sidereal, but if you feel called to call it sidereal, I think that's fine. Just like we pronounce names differently, right?
I think sidereal sounds more astrological. It sounds more correct than I'm just pronouncing it literally as I read it.
Yeah. So that was the first time I was like, oh, this astrology really speaks to me. Because again, I had known about astrology, it's part of human design, but I had never really felt a huge resonance with astrology. I mean, yeah, this is my sun sign, and okay, but it wasn't this profound experience that I had with human design, right? But then with true sidereal astrology, it was like, oh my gosh, wow. I was like, this really resonated. And I really felt like, just like I had this experience also with human design previously, where you felt really seen and it just felt right for me, right? From my own experience. And what was interesting, that I was no longer an Aquarius sun sign. I became a Capricorn sun sign, and a lot of things in my chart shifted. Now, the overall chart in astrology, you kind of know, right? We have oppositions and trines and all these things in an astrology chart. Like, that looked all still the same in the true sidereal, but what's different if I compare tropical to true sidereal is that it takes into account the precession of the equinox, and that's probably not going to tell you anything. So what does that mean? So at the time of the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, that's really what we use as the baseline. When we are always at 0-degree Aries, that's what we say in tropical. And that was the case in the sky. If you actually look up in the sky over 2,000 years ago, that at the time of the spring equinox, the sun was just shifting at 0-degree into Aries, right? And then through all the 12 signs. Now, also in tropical, we have 12 even signs, all 30-degree. And what has been happening over the last 2,000 years, and really always has been happening, but we kind of fixed it 2,000 years ago. We were saying, oh, this is how this guy looks like, and we kind of freeze it in time. Yeah. But what happens every 72 years, there's a 1-degree shift in the sky. So after 72 years, at the time of the spring equinox, the sun was no longer at 0-degree Aries. It was like entering the last degree of Aquarius, right? And then, so, within one lifetime, there's not much of a shift. Let's say we turn 100, even 150, like it's just 2-degree. But over 2,000 years, it has pretty much shifted 30-degree in the sky. So what this means is that today, and this is also why many people see a change in their signs, like the sun sign, the moon sign, and all of this, because whatever you thought it was, it's like 30 degrees before what's really up in the sky. And that's what if you take a telescope and you look up in the sky, you will literally see. So in my case, for example, when I was born in 1982, the sun was in spanking like right in Capricorn, not in Aquarius, right? Even though like tropical astrology says that I'm an Aquarius, right? And this is based on this fixed way of how the sky looked like 2,000 years ago. So True Sidereal takes into account nature, which resonates a lot with me. Also with intuition, because True Sidereal now really tells in your chart what was straight up happening in the sky versus already 30 degrees rushed into the future, so to say, right? And I have always been about slowing down and how to, trust yourself and with your intuition. So I have felt intuitively like, wow, I think that this True Sidereal is somehow coming into my awareness, because I wasn't even looking for it, like not at all. It was actually a little bit challenging because I was like, what am I going to tell my clients now? Because I'll get to this later, but this changes your human design chart, right? But it just felt so right. It was like, I have always been about nature, and also the 12 signs that we have. There's actually a 13th sign called a ficus that was obscured at some time. And it's very interesting. In a lot of temples in Egypt, you actually find the sign and they kind of blacken it out. And so it was put back into the 360-degree circle. And in True Sidereal Astrology, we are also using the actual size of the constellations. So they're not really 30 degree each. Virgo, for example, is super big, and Aries is very small, and Scorpio also is super small, right? So it's taking into account the irregularities of nature that we have. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it does. Why don't we get into like how it would change or alter your human design perspective if you are integrating True Sidereal with human design?
Yeah. So that's a little bit of a shock for many people at first, because what happens, so the connection or the relationship to the gates is still the same in the context of how like an astrology chart looks like, right? Like the pattern itself. But we have to shift it back about 30 degrees. So that means different gates are activated in the human design chart. And you are a human design expert, right? If there's different gates activated in my chart, my whole chart is going to change. And mind you, like for some people it's less, but for most people, the type changes, your profile changes, the activated gates change in the chart and all of this, right? And then you could be like, okay, well, what's the point of human design? Because it tells me like, I have this profile and this type, and that's really, giving me all these like guidelines on how to live my life and how to make decisions and everything, right? And so for me, for some reason, that was quite easy, because even before True Sidereal came into my life, I had really explored it at such a deep level that I started to see that we have all of the chart, right? We have elements of all of the types. It's not that only generators are responding. We're all responding, right? And we also have all big invitations from life, because just as one example, the projector invitation, right? That's such a beautiful, energetic description of how divine timing works, and like how it's so much more than just planning with a mind, right? And it's for the big things in life. So that just describes one part of, but it doesn't describe daily life necessarily, right? It's for the big. And I have found in my own life, even though I'm not a projector in any of these charts, right? Like, I have experienced this invitation so many times, in my own life. And so this came from my own experiment with human design, and also working with so many clients, that I always find we're this end, but there are some aspects in a chart that are just being highlighted that you need to hear to really activate your gifts, right? To see yourself bolder. So also certain gates, like you can be a projector, but have very manifestor like gates in your chart, like gate 51, gate 53, right? So just because I'm a projector or a generator doesn't mean you never ever have initiating energy, right? So I already was doing all of this before. How, we don't want to take a human design super rigid, more like, yes, this is the type that I have, this is a profile, but everything else is also relevant, right? But this human design chart is kind of my access point that unlocks everything. So yeah, and then I just went with it, and I personally felt where I was at in my life at this point, a much stronger pull towards my true sidereal chart. So I shifted from a 2 for manifesting generator to a 5-1 generator in my chart, right? Different gates activated, still some similarities, but also different centers defined and undefined. And I started to realize how, even though I was really aware of how human design can sometimes limit us, right? And we put ourselves in a box easily. I was aware that I was actually doing that myself to some extent, how I let the 2 profile limit me, use it as an excuse sometimes, right? And then somehow seeing this different perspective, it's literally like, maybe that helps. So this is how I saw myself with a tropical, and then this is how I saw myself with a true sidereal, right? You're the same human, you're just seeing yourself from a different perspective, right? And so it was realizing how seeing myself from a different perspective was extremely empowering and was more serving me where I was in my life at this point. And today, what I hear a lot from my clients and also from my own experience is that tropical often feels like where we have been. It's like our grounding, supporting energy that most of us really access human design through the tropical lens, right? And then the true sidereal is more like what we are growing into, a little bit like North Node energy, right? So it's also, when you look at South Node and North Node in astrology, they cannot exist without one another, right? So for me, it's always very important, like, it's not that tropical is wrong at all. That's how I had amazing breakthroughs and so many changes in my own life. But if at some point it doesn't resonate anymore, that should be okay as well, right? Because human design is teaching me that I'm here to trust myself. I'm here to listen to myself. And that's, if I place human design or astrology or the Enneagram or any system on a plateau where I'm like using it in a way where I'm saying, oh, this actually tells me that I can't do this, or this tells me that I have to do this, but it doesn't feel right in my body, that's what I call authority collapse, right? Where we're overriding what feels right to us because we are like saying another system is kind of like telling otherwise. So I said a lot. I want to take a little pause to see where you were at, what your questions are.
I hear how people talk about human design as putting us in a box. And on the one hand, yeah, I mean, kind of old school traditional human design does. And like some of Ra's teachings, like, I don't know. The person that I've learned human design from learned directly under him and has said, and who knows if this is true, that he said, for example, things like projectors aren't meant to become mothers because we don't have the projector, we don't have the energy, like just other examples.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows if that's true or not? Maybe it's written in some book somewhere, and I don't know. But my perspective on it is that it's just our baseline. And you said that as well. It is where we start. And I think I love this idea that we all have all parts of the chart. And again, my human design teacher was always like reminding us of that all the time. We all have all parts of the chart and we all evolve beyond the chart, and that the chart is the baseline. It's where we start. So I started running human design charts for all the different components of my business of the business itself. I would intuitively arrive on a birthday and time of the business, of my podcast, of my signature program. And the only thing of all my ecosystem's key components that's a projector is me. But so my business is a generator, my signature offer is a manifester, my podcast is a manifesting generator, and I sit as the projector on the treetops and run the different components. But the components itself are acting like generators. So in a way, I think it's another way how you were saying, like, we all have all these energies inside. That's how I really arrived on that as well for myself. When I noticed that the different key components of my business have these different types, but yet it's me. It's like an extension of me, of course. My business is an extension of me. So I do find it really fascinating how this astrology is kind of bringing this idea to life about how we really do have all parts of the charts and how different energies are going to show up. I'd be curious to know, when you ran your new human design chart, were you like, this is me? Like, this feels truer? Or did you feel like both charts were true? Or was it like, that was my south node, this is my north node? Like, how did that play out?
Yeah. And I have to say, I think we have both a very expansive perspective of human design, right? Where we kind of have transcended these boxes, because that's how we meet. I think it's a good access point for human design, but then we kind of like, oh, there's so much more, and it's everything, and everything is like placed together. So for me, the tropical chart in the beginning super resonated. I felt so seen. I think the biggest thing was like, oh, I'm different and it's okay. Just that, like, I'm not meant to be like everybody else, because we can compare ourselves so much. And 2-4 was very helpful, because I can be very bubbly and outgoing, but I'm also really an introvert, right? So the 2-4 profile was this perfect resemblance of that. And then, though, over time, there were some things that didn't really resonate in my chart, but at the time, I didn't know. I was more like a realization in hindsight. I was trying to fit myself into certain things, even though it was kind of like, this just doesn't feel 100%. But then there were other things that at the time, they were super, super on point. Manifesting generator, just in general, like, it's okay to have multiple passions. So when I then pulled my true sidereal chart, shifting into a 5-1 generator, different centers defined. So I had all of a sudden an undefined throat center. That felt so much more like me, because I can be super on with my energy, and I also feel like I'm amplifying other people's voices a lot and easily, and then I need to be super quiet. So that was much more, I was like, oh yeah, I almost felt like a relief, Also, I had a defined root all of a sudden, because I'm always like very grounding with people. That's what people always tell me, and that's how I also feel. And also from the astrology perspective, what was super interesting, my tropical astrology chart, I have a grand trine all in air signs in my tropical. And I was almost like, I mean, yeah, I have a lot of air energy, right? Also being a podcaster and stuff. But then my true sidereal chart, the whole grand trine shifted into earth signs. And that was almost the biggest thing for me. I was like, yeah, that's home. It was so like, I'm so much more earth. And I'm still like, I'm a North Node Gemini in True Sidereal. And so that's where I still have air energy, right? But the main energy that I really feel in my chart is more earth energy. And that was really resembled in my True Sidereal Astrology and also in my human design chart. Also the 5-1 profile, because I think just like bringing True Sidereal more boldly out into the world is very much 5-line energy, in the sense of like, you have a big vision and you're teaching it and you're taking it to the masses, because I also have done a summit twice already about all things True Sidereal Astrology, human design, and gene keys. And also this projection field, right? Where the 5-line, we sometimes can, call in projections, but just having this understanding that, and I think I was mature enough at the time that I didn't take it personal anymore, right? When people are like, oh, but this is wrong, and Ra said this, and you can't do this. And I'm like, okay, but if I'm overriding what feels right to me, like then I can work with the system, right? So I'm always like, hey, can we just like, you do you, I do me. I'm just offering a new perspective. And if you want to go with it, cool. If you want to stick with tropical, I love you too. And it's all good. Like there's no, let's evolve together, right? And let's respect also where one another is. So a little bit long answer, but yes, I felt a much more aligned energy with my true sidereal chart, like kind of like where I was no longer looking. With the tropical, I was always still trying to figure something out and looking for something that I felt was missing. But both resonated at some point, right? And it's like, yeah, tropical more where I was at the time. And then when I had the true sidereal was where I was more like really being called to step into. And then I realized how in my tropical, I was a lot in the shadow energies of many of these energies, right? Which is also part of the game. That's like we have to be in the shadow first to, expand into these other energies.
Did you have the same authority, or did you have a different
Yeah,
authority?
I have the same authority, which sometimes people like, which I understand. It's like, oh, that's easy, right? To shift from sacral authority to sacral authority. Because some people shift from being a mental projector to being an emotional generator. That can happen, or the other way around, right? Because so my chart, for example, I have had an ajna defined, and then a split, and then an undefined throat, and then I have sacral authority. So for me, I'm a mental projector up here. I need to talk a lot to get clarity. So what I learned about the mental projector has been helping me as a generator tremendously, because you have to see the whole chart. There is so much more than the types. And I don't know if you went into that rabbit hole as well, but I also, when I realized that we really have also all of the types, right? If I talk about all types, there's something that resonates with me. And at some point in my life, I need to initiate things. Then I'm more responding. Then it's about the big invitation. Then it's more about reflector energy, being super sensitive, and I need connection with nature. And then there is this multi-passionate part of me, the manifesting generator. I can play with all these it's an archetype, right? And in the beginning of human design, there were no types. I think it took almost 10 years until they came up with the types, which I think was a brilliant idea because it made it more accessible for people, where we kind of feel seen in a specific group. But then, as we know, it can also be kind of, because I'm not a big fan at all about this separation thing in human design, where like the projectors are here to guide and the generators are here just to work for it's very hierarchy sometimes how it's being taught. And I'm like, I think we need all of it and everything. And I love how you say, like, I'm a projector and I'm a generator in my business and I'm a manifestor in my program. That's what it's about. It's like embracing it all, right? Rather than the sense of entitlement. I think the types were mainly for making it more marketable and accessible for people. But we have to be very careful not to let it limit ourselves or see us super separate from everything, right? Because just a kind of, this is a little bit of a nerdy comment, but you can be a manifest and have only projected channels in your chart, which for me is a little bit of a fault in the system. And also you can be one type, and most charts have mainly projected channels in the human design chart. So I think the projector is probably the type that most people, especially where we're at with the whole shift with the sleeping phoenix and more divine intuitive leadership, that's all about that, right? I think the projector archetype is an embodiment of that, like more ease, more flow, that things come to you, and then you tap into the masculine. Yeah.
Yeah. I follow the tropical chart. I have an open throat center. So I'm feeling into my listeners and I'm hearing them saying, yeah, but Allison, Analena, like, I'm just getting to know human design and I'm just getting to know my own type and my own strategy and my own authority and profile lines. And now there's this new thing, but what you're saying is resonating with me. Like, I'm getting what you're saying, but gosh, now I have to run a whole new chart and that's going to be
Yeah.
overwhelming. So how, like, I would say I have some listeners who are like super well knowledge on human design, but I also have listeners where they're on the new side of the journey to it, but are very curious and want to learn more. Let's talk to both people. And then, of course, there's everyone in between. But let's talk to someone who is on their newer side of human design. They are just getting to know their tropical chart, but are curious about this and feeling it
Yeah.
intuitively resonating. What
Yeah.
would you recommend they do?
Yeah. Actually, I would say the same to both, because you're so much also about intuition, right? And everybody's different. I trust so much in divine timing and synchronicities. Like, you're listening to this today for a reason, right? If it feels like pressure to check it out, I would leave it. Or if you feel like overwhelmed in a sense in your body, I would probably leave it, right? But if you feel this like curiosity, it's a lightness, it's an expansive feeling, and probably you cannot stop thinking about it, or like, I need to check it out. And even if you just discovered human design yesterday, maybe you were never meant to work with a tropical. Could be. Maybe you are already like in this energy of like, no, I'm actually here to uncover the true sidereal version, right? Like, everybody's journey is different. And you could be working with tropical already for like 5 years, and you're listening right now and like, I'm not interested. And that's what I would trust. Like, you're here, like human designs. I think the job of this tool, like so many other tools we have out there, is that you have a stronger connection with yourself. That's what I call authority expansion, right? Where you listen to your authority, you trust yourself. And if you feel you want to explore the true sidereal human design, go do it. It doesn't matter where you're at on your human design journey. Now, one thing that's really important, I think, to add on to that is that be prepared, especially if you have already been working with human design for quite some time with the tropical, it may be a little bit of an ego death, or a little bit of a shock, where we're like, oh, okay, because we start to notice sometimes how attached we do get to things, even though we think we're not. I've seen it with a lot of people. And others, though, they have this immediate like, oh my God, I feel so seen here. And then they tell me like, I really never resonated fully with my tropical chart. That's some people's story too. But be curious, what is your story, right? There is no wrong and no right. Like, there's just your story, however it is, that is the right way.
I love that perspective. And the other thing I would add is like, if you just know the types, if you just know the 5 types and nothing else, and in your tropical chart, you're a projector, and then in your sidereal, you're a manifesting generator, that's all you need to know. Like, once you kind of learn, again, if you're on the newer side of human design, the key, type, strategy, authority, and you're shifting into a new thing, it's not that much new to learn. It's just a new perspective. You're seeing yourself in that energy of one type versus the other. So, I would say that, like, if you are curious about human design, just getting to know the basics, and then you know them, and then whatever chart you plug into it, you don't have to like relearn it. You just have to discover, is this me? What feels true to me? Live into it, embody it. I have to say, and I've never thought about this before ever, but I am totally attached to my type and my profile. I'm a 6'2" projector. Ooh, Freudian slip there. I just said generator. That could be my sidereal type. I'm curious, but I am a 6'2" projector in the tropical. And I'm very attached to that. I love it. Like, I love my little 6'2" projector ways. And I could see that's great if I love it and it feels true, but I think some like attachment there it's probably something I could release at the same time. So, and I've never really recognized that in myself before.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love your vulnerability about it, because I think that's all right. Our own self-awareness, and how we sometimes realize like, no, and it could be healthy attachment, right? Attachment doesn't have to be bad in any way or form. But then also sometimes we can also realize, oh, I have been hiding here a little bit behind this label. And it can happen too, right? So I think what is so important is to be curious, to be open-minded. Like, nothing outside of yourself is here to limit you or here to tell you what you can or cannot do. Like I see human design, astrology, gene keys. It's a tool of reflection, right? To confirm something you already probably know about yourself. It's not necessarily here to tell you a lot of new things. It's more like, oh, okay, I can be fully me and it's okay. And I don't have to be like what the people are saying or what I think I should do, right? You really step into this more sovereign self, which again, I call this authority expansion, where you're like, yeah, you trust yourself, you take the action, because that's important, right? We got to take action, right? Because oftentimes people are like, oh, but my human design chart says that I should do this. And then we get stuck in the head, right? So it's all getting out of your head and into the body, and if human design helps you to trust your body more, I think then it has done its job. If that's the tropical, the true sidereal, or both charts, or 5 different charts.
Yeah. Hey, I have a quick question. Is there an easy way to run the human design chart with the sidereal astrology? I'm just so curious. Or is it a 25-step process?
No. Like that's actually a thing I worked on for over a year with, Body Graph, right? The software, I would think. Yeah, there were, because we had some calculators out there, but then the True Sidereal calculations that were refined last summer. And so, yeah, it's there. It's on my website for free. You can just go there. I'll share. You can share. I think I shared the link with you. You can just go to analenafuchs.com and then / I think it's true/sidereal. And you can pull your free chart there and you have it. And even at the top, you can download a PDF. It will also show you your True Sidereal gene keys. It just has the, little circles there with the numbers and the lines. And I also offer like a report for those that want to go deeper. That's optional, obviously. You will see that option after you run the chart, but the chart itself, you can get it. So
okay, I have to do it right now. I'm on your.
Yeah.
I'm just too curious. You have a beautiful website, by the way. Very well branded. I love the colors.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my earthy vibe.
Yes, beautiful. It feels very authentic. Okay, I'm very excited. Let me just make sure I have everything right. I'm gonna be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, drum roll. I will be shocked if it says something that has a defined sacral.
Yeah, let's see. I don't know.
But we'll see. What am I? 3-5. Okay. Oh my God. I'm having an identity crisis. Actually, okay. Honestly, if it would have said Manny, Jen, or Jenna, I would have been like, nah. But this, 5-3 manifester. This totally feels correct.
Cool.
100%. I attract so many of my clients are 5 lines. And I'm always like, you're 5 line, you're 5 line. I'm like, I'm trying to convince my clients how amazing their 5 lines are. And they're like, okay, Allison, like,
yeah.
I think it was like grabbing it for myself.
That's
totally makes sense.
I had the same experience. So when I was working with my 2-4 manifesting generator tropical chart, I was always attracting 5 ones all the time. I almost like, I don't know, 50% of my clients, and often also generators, right? And then I pull my chart and I'm a 5-1 generator myself. And I'm like, it was a very similar thing where I felt, I almost forgot that. Thank you for sharing it right now, because I used to tell the story a lot. I'm like, I think life was already kind of like guiding me towards this new chart before I even discovered it, right? There was a strong thing. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
My tropical chart is like non-motorized, open throat. And I'm always like, hey, does anybody hear me? But wow, I have energy to the throat here. Ooh.
So this is something that I find so interesting now, because look, we're humans, right? We're trying to figure this out, like life and everything. And that's exactly what I found, that people then all of a sudden, just because they see it on a human design chart, it gives them such a boost in energy. And I've seen this a lot with projectors. They're so disempowered oftentimes, and it breaks my heart, seriously, sometimes, where people are like, that's why I love you. You have this attitude, no, I'm a generator here, and you brought the energy in because we have access to all of the chart. And that's why I'm thankful. I'm sure you probably taught also with Karen Parker, I would think.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So because she always know, like, you have all of the charts. And in the beginning I was like, what does she mean? And I was like, yeah, I get it. She's right. And she has been doing this for, I think, almost 30 years now. So I think I was so drawn to her as my teacher that I was like, I did all her certifications right away. And I was like, and I know now why, because she had this like very expansive, non-dogmatic way of human design that I needed, because I also saw very dogmatic ways of human design out there, and my whole body was contracting. Not to say it's wrong, but not aligned for me. So
I am tingling now, Analena. I am like literally tingling. I had this intuitive hit that she's going to give me something today in this interview, and it's going to blow my mind. I really did have that hit. I said it at the start of the call. I'm like, I'm blown away. 5-3 manifester. They both feel correct for me.
yeah.
I'm still, like I said, I am a little bit of attached to 6-2 projector, but I think that I have to sit with this. This is like kind of blowing my mind.
No, and look, also your nervous system, just from a nervous system perspective, the 6-2 is familiar, right? So
That's
it's
true.
not,
It's
we don't want to make this wrong now. It's more like, let's be grateful. This has been serving you for such a long time, and now something new is easily scary to the nervous system, right? That also, sometimes I have people like, they get into this complete shock and like, oh no, human design is completely wrong now, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I was like, no, I get it. That's honorable reaction, right? So, and then often I have people that come back to me like 6 months later, like, Analena, oh my God, this has changed my life. And that's what's happened with True Sidereal a lot. Like, that people tell me that, oh my gosh, like, thank you for sharing this. It's changing my life. I'm sharing with all these people. And that's also what always keeps me going, because it's still kind of like, even though I wasn't the first one to bring this out. It was first in 2020, they already started doing it, right? And it's still like a super small niche in the human design space, Most people don't even know about it. And I feel like my job is to create awareness about it, because it has been so profound for me. And just seeing your energetic reaction, like, yeah, I think how can I not share about this,
Totally.
Yes.
I mean, there's very few configurations, like, just for the listeners who are like, I don't know about this. I'm a tropical gal or guy or person. I can tell you that if it would have been anything else, I really would have said, I don't think so. But like, I really feel like 5-3 manifestor. I'm like, oh yeah, so that alone is making me like really feel like there is something here. And I'm just going to say again, for people on the newer side to human design, if you get to know type, strategy, and authority, you can plug it into the different things. So that's what's cool about getting to know the human design basics. You can run the different types of charts and then feel in to asking the question, does this feel like me? Does this feel like me now? Do both things feel? They both can be true. They can show up at different parts of your lives. But listen, I could just talk to you about this forever. We're definitely going to leave a link in the show notes for this chart. So any of my human design peeps, or anybody actually, like you said, if you're on the brand new side to human design, you might want to just start here. Follow your intuition, of course. But I would love for you to leave our listeners with an invitation.
Yeah, I'm inviting you into curiosity and really an open mind when it comes to human design, and really allow yourself to feel what feels right in your body. Let go of what all the books and what all the teachers are saying out there, or how it should be. Really trust yourself, right? And if it feels right, and if that's True Sidereal or something completely different, right? I really invite you to explore it, because your body is always guiding you. That's what I feel like is our connection to God, divine, showing us always like the next step. And like, human design is meant to activate you from within, right? And then at some point, I really feel like we're going to transcend any chart, and you don't need any chart anymore, but let it activate you. Yeah.
100%. I definitely believe we're all on the trajectory to evolve beyond the chart. And there might be certain things that resonate, but then if they resonate, then that's your truth. So, that's where you are. So, I totally agree. This has been fantastic. I know some of our listeners are going to want to learn more about you. How can they connect?
Yeah, so my website and my Instagram, I think, is probably the best. You're going to put that in the show notes, right? So it's Analena.Fuchs. It's also my Instagram handle. And like I said, you can get the free chart calculator there. And that's a beautiful way to get started. I think that's really the best way. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And feel free to message me. I'm like not a shy person. Like you can reach out to me, ask questions. So I think we need more human interaction in this day of AI. We need to go back to that. So you're welcome to do
agree more. Couldn't agree more. Thank you again so much for sharing your wisdom today on Soul Alive Radio.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
That's a wrap for this week. I hope you received so much from this wisdom. I'm so grateful for you each and every week. And I'm trying out a new closing line because, my old closing line under Soul Guide Radio was until next time, may your soul guide the way. And that just really worked. I mean, I could keep that. But now I have Soul Alive Radio. And I've been saying until next time, may you be soul alive. But I feel like Soul Alive is a returning. It's a returning to soul alignment. And that's what I call my being when I'm in alignment. I am soul alive. So I'm going to play around with some more closings here until I find the thing that I feel like really sings. Well, let me just see what flows. I don't want to think about it. I want to flow about it. So until next time, may you return to soul alive. I like that. So we'll try that. Maybe next time I'll even forget it, but we'll try it. We'll try it. Until next time, may you return to soul alive.